But I've been lucky to work with, directly and indirectly, a bunch of top young riders. And to be frank with you, I've gotten a tremendous amount out of it myself. Staying current in the sport, seeing their enthusiasm, ambition, reignites the fire in me. And so I gravitate towards being around that.
I still remember the moment very, very good when I asked him if I could come over with a horse to school and if he could give me a help or some advices. And I was very happy to have a yes, and yeah, that changed a lot in my life, to be honest.
I remember pretty clearly he started to jump around, and I said to Lee, my longtime barn manager, I said, I can't ride like that. Like, I can't do that. And we kind of had a joke about it, and I said, oh, this is a guy I'd like to get to know a little bit. Obviously had unbelievable talent, but was a little raw around the edges, and America was a new world for him.
So it was my first time in Aachen, all those famous riders here, and I must say, I knew the sport in Germany, but I wasn't so international educated yet, you know. I didn't know all the riders, and at the time I worked for Ludger Beerbaum, and Philipp Weishaupt was kind of my closest friend there and said, you know, you should watch them how they warm up, this, that, everything. So I watched that American rider, McLain Ward, warming up on the horse Clinta that I knew. And he jumped a few fences, and then all of a sudden he got off and added his spurs. So I said to Philipp, you know, they fly all the way over here from America to Germany, they warm up, and then they forget even to put the spurs on before they got on the horse. So I didn't even get it, you know, but I was a bit to Philipp like, they're not focused at all. Like, even we would not do that mistake. And Philipp was like, oh boy, you gotta learn a lot still. I tell you one thing with McLain, keep watching him, keep following him, but nothing is not planned until the last detail. So that was a lesson for me I will never forget.
I'm a hand writer. I feel that, you know, I always say what I can do on one page is enough, otherwise I'm getting too far ahead. But yeah, in a general sense, I look 2-4 years down the road, and then as I work closer, you know, it gets much more specific. And I've always had an overall general sense of where I wanted my career to go, what I wanted to do, how many times I wanted to come and to Aachen and the Olympic Games and try to win these events. Yeah, you know, I start to come up with things in my mind. I typically think very far ahead. I've studied and read a lot and been exposed to really great planners, not just in sports, but in business and in life, and be able to take that, particularly from other sports where they have these massive budgets to do all of this stuff, and apply it to our sport, which is I think, becoming more popular.
I'm a terrible planner. That's why I think it's even more important to have someone alongside or by my side, or someone I look up to very much and try to follow as much as I can, that is very strict with the planning, so I could see how important it is. Because whoever, like everyone that knows Philipp Weishaupt also knows he's, you know, he gets a lot of things done, but he's very relaxed about things, and so am I. So, you know, we could have the Grand Prix on a Sunday, and Sunday morning we still wouldn't really know what bit we're gonna jump the horse in, and we go a bit with feeling, and you know, but yeah, there's also downsides of this. It has a few positive aspects, but a lot of downsides as well.
When you watch Richie ride, if you really love the sport of show jumping and you're an athlete, you're a bit taken back by the awesomeness of it. I often think in my own thing, I'm the 40-something-year-old quarterback who's trying to stay in the league, and the guy's a foot taller than me, and he throws the ball twice as hard as I do, and I gotta somehow compete, right? So I gotta find other ways to do it. That's the reality, and I think putting your own ego aside, that's the beautiful thing, right? Like, how do you be close to that? How do you admire and appreciate that? And you can see how I feel about it. He still doesn't know everything yet, so I can still get him from time to time. So one thing that my team has noticed, and it really is a testament to talented, ambitious, and smart people. You know, it's not just Richie that I think there's been benefits in being around us. And as I said, it's mutual. But his team around him, Felicia's groom, I do think there are parts of the American system about the way the horses are turned out and cared for that is quite special. And particularly in my team, which I think is frankly the best in the world. They're better at what they do than what I do. I see that in his team around him, and it's not a direct instructional type situation. It's observing, it's wanting to grow and wanting to be the best version of what you do. And you see it throughout his whole team.
Just the way of seeing things is totally different, and all the planning, everything is very detailed, orientated, and I've never seen the things that way. For me, it was always just go from day to day more or less, but to have such a long-term plan with your horse, with everything around the horse, and have all the parts put together that well, with the farrier, the wet, everything, the whole picture, the whole puzzle, that complete was for me a new experience. And okay, I worked for Ludger, and it's not that they are not professional, they're very professional too, but a bit in a different way. And that was very good for me to see and to learn.
What I have learned in time is you do need some instinct and you do need some flexibility. The horses, like life, sometimes don't do exactly what you expect, and in either way. Sometimes they do more, sometimes they do less, and I don't mean that in that they give less, but they're just what their capabilities are, what their health issues allow them to do, and the trajectory of their careers. And if you get too pigeonholed on your plan, it becomes difficult to be flexible, and that's also not successful. So I've learned to progress and change.
We're still on the way to improve it, I guess, and there's still some room to improve. But at least, for example, I drive to Aachen, I know which horse does what class, which is for most people common sense, but wasn't always like that. So yeah, I for sure for the better horses, for the main horses in my string, I have basically a plan for the whole season, for the whole year. And now we had the big goal, Paris, the Olympics, and we really tried to do a good plan towards that. Also, I sat down with McLain and talked about the plan.
I knew in Germany, as you saw in England and Ireland, you saw these natural talents, but they were a little raw compared to the American system, which was, by the equitation, business model. Things were very organized, very disciplined, turnout was very important. So I wasn't shocked to see, incredible talents come out of Europe that you would say needed to be refined a little bit. And, I look at someone like Ludger Beerbaum, to me, that's the ultimate version of that. You had all this raw ambition, horsemanship, talent, and then it was refined to a certain degree, and be able to ride different types of horses and adjust and be open-minded and grow, not only as an athlete, but in the sport. I did not think that I started out as a talent like Richie. But I figured out early on how I always looked at people like a Jan Tops or Paul Schackermüller, who in my opinion were not as talented maybe naturally as Frankus Slutek. But I thought, God, if you could blend the two of these things and have a little bit of talent, you could go further. And I was lucky I saw the path very early on.
Mostly someone is around that I trust a lot and admire a lot. Like here now, McLain, I would go and ask something about the course, and if you then get a second opinion about doing a stride less or leave out, then that's enough for me. Then I don't have to ask 5 more people and get 5 more opinions, Be positive about it, and that gives me actually...
The 5 and the 8?
Yeah. But yeah, also there, I think I don't have to compare myself with other or my plan for any round I do with United Touch with other horses, because he simply has a bigger stride and a different stride.
I was at a point in my career where I'd had success, but knew that the mental side was definitely lacking. I remember I had an experience where I was two rails had two rails to give at the World Cup finals in Leipzig one year and gave it away because I almost pushed the win away. And I thought that was a lot of mental weakness. And I figured if I was going to take the last steps in the sport and win the biggest events, I needed to improve that, and was lucky enough to be able to get access to Bob. Was ready for it. You know, I always say it was a little bit, you know, it's something you need to be prepared to digest and really apply.
And I'm almost a bit in a tunnel. And I think there's people that need to learn this. And I was lucky enough to been given that a little bit. That's why I feel confident in situations where there's a bit pressure on and so on, because I always have the feeling I can handle it. And especially if you have a partner, the horse underneath you, in which you trust and you know he can jump it. For example, now I'm ahead of my first Olympics with United Touch, but I have a horse underneath me where I know if he cannot jump the course they set up, most other horses also can't jump it. So that gives me a lot of confidence, and I try to see things always positive.
I always use the line, you know, you guys see the podium, you see the victories, you see the benefits of the life. You don't see the long, dark nights in the hotel room you're on your own with your thoughts and your insecurities. And it's a privileged life. We play a game for a living, but it takes something from you. And we do it for a long period of time. And as you come up the levels, particularly when you're as talented as someone like Richie, you know, every accomplishment, that's a new plateau, that's a new bar. And all of a sudden you realize that that's either the standard or you're disappointed, right? And when that becomes win the Grand Prix of Aachen or you go home in the car disappointed on Sunday night, that's something you've got to process a little bit and figure out a way to live with and not allow it to get in the way of how you do your sport and also just your life. There's a part of me that no matter what's going right or wrong, when I get to the gate, I think I can win. No matter what the horse is, no matter what the situation is, no matter how fast he went, there's a part of me that thinks I can maybe find a way. And that's a great switch that turns on. Be for an amateur or as we progress, you know, or the higher levels of the sport, to trust that field, trust those instincts, and then surround yourself with people who make a good plan and execute a good plan. When I make our plans, when I consult with the people around me that I trust, it's not, you know, it's not a one-man show, right? I'm taking information from a bunch of different people that I trust, and I'm trusting my own instincts. We put the plan in place, but then we move into the stage of trusting it. So for the amateur, it's the same setup, but maybe just slightly different from the point of view is they trust their instincts, they need to give feedback, and they need to surround themselves with good people giving them good advice.
I'm the not planning too much side. Listen to your horse. Don't be too focused on only planning. It's very important, and that's what it's all about, I think, in this interview. But we're working with an animal, we're working with our horses, so listen to your horse. If you have the feeling, okay, right now it's actually time to take a step back, go into a lower class, to get back some confidence or whatever the situation asks, I think you should do that, even though the plan that you worked on with your trainer or whoever says something different. I think it's still important as we work with an animal to do adjustments and to not just be too focused on the plan.
Who's going to win the most classes?
Oh, he's going to win the most classes. I would just like to win the right classes.
Who wins the right classes?